Hey, what's going on, everybody? TujoPanda back in action. Talk about something else today. By something else, it's going to be about Christian. I actually haven't talked about Christian for any great length of time now because it just seemed like every other day there was some new topic of interest that sort of enraptured me. You had Dark Side Phil, you had Garo Shadow Scale, you had Hypnotist Sappho, you had YouTube, the whole entire platform changing around me. Basically, you know, the removal of the dislikes button, but we already talked about that. Basically, you can't see publicly displayed dislikes, and not because the author of the channel decided to hide them. It's because YouTube decided they were too negative, and that certain creators out there need to be protected. See, you don't know this, or perhaps you already do know this, but not all creators are created equally. But we're not here to talk about all that today. We're here to talk about your favorite goddess blue heart, Christian. But listen, before we continue, I actually want to bring something to your all's attention. This is coming from the heart, alright? So please take me seriously. Just, you know, fixate on me, focus on me, do what you gotta do, get yourself into the right mindset, listen to my words as though your very life could depend on it. Are you, by any chance, missing something in your life? Perhaps a higher purpose, something to really occupy your time on the face of the world. Or perhaps you're having concerns about what the hereafter has in store for you. Living a life of sin and lechery, it's really not a long-term goal for success. I mean, obviously, the trope goes in like Christianity that living a life of sin is only going to lead to eternal damnation, and nobody wants that. So, you seem like somebody that needs to be saved, somebody that needs salvation. And to that end, I would like to extend an offer to all of you all. I extend this invitation to you all, the faithful, for there is a goddess among men, a goddess that will ensure your safety and salvation in the face of Judgment Day, the dimensional merge, when 50% of the world's population will be eviscerated and left to burn on the failing earth as the remainder of those who had lain faith in the true and honest blue heart are elevated to C-197 so that they can live out their lives. And upon arrival in C-197, they can be the hero of their own story. They can be their original character. They can be their persona. And they can watch and marvel as Superman flies through the sky, as Batman fights crime, as Spider-Man slings webs all across the city, as the evangelicals go up against the My Little Ponies from the My Little Pony universe in the sky. The sky's the limit. It will be unmitigated chaos, but the one certainty that I can ensure the rest of you all is that there will never be a dull moment. I am going to name this religion Christianity, and it will be dedicated to the honor of Christian, the honest goddess blue heart, the blue Sonichu, the one, the only, the true Messiah that will bring about a salvation for the rest of us and deliver us all unto the promised land in a silvery chariot. Yeah. Christianity. God help us all. You know, I actually did that pitch when I was talking to Coyote Lovely the other night. He really does live up to his name, Coyote Lovely. But, you know, I went about my pitch. I was just telling him, hey, you know, like for a nominal fee of about $5, you can ensure your place as being one of the saved upon Judgment Day when the dimensional merge takes place. And, you know, there's a 50% chance that you're going to be one of the people that die. But if you're one of the lucky 50% that doesn't die, then you're going to be your original character. You will see yourself on C-197 as Coyote Lovely as he appears in his YouTube videos. And he will be able to rub shoulders with people like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, you know, the Doctor Who, My Little Ponies, all the other personas that managed to make it there, all the other weebs and squeebs that managed to get there, as their own original characters. And you know what Coyote Lovely's response was? He's just like, damn, for $5, that's not a bad deal. Like, that's, you know, eternal salvation, but there's also the 50% chance that I could die. But yeah, like, think about it. $5 for, like, the chance of salvation, eternal salvation. Like, that's a trip to McDonald's, Christian's favorite restaurant. So there you go. We're already off to a good start. Jokes aside, there are actually a lot of updates about Christian that I didn't go over. And if you're wondering why it's taken me this long to get to it, honestly, I'm kind of glad I waited, because some of the topics of interest I'm going to bring to you all, like your all's attention, the proof wasn't in the pudding, okay? There's a lot of hearsay, conjecture, and speculation out there, but there's also a lot of material that Christian is voluntarily offering to whoever happens to write them. Did you know that at least 35 people have written Christian, like, while he was in prison? And that's only at the time of, like, the last confirmation, like the last letter. That would be letter 8. There's also been a couple of phone calls back and forth between Christian and another party that decided to try to keep themselves anonymous. Essentially what happened is they released a audio log of them having a phone call with Christian. My theory is that Christian happened to, like, call them, because they probably included their phone number in a letter and said, hey, feel free to call me at any point, you know, just have a chat. And the individual went through great care to, like, cut out their own voice so you can't actually hear who's talking to Christian. You only ever hear Christian's voice throughout the entirety of the call. And it actually led to some drama, because there was another YouTuber out there by the name of Smokey MCC. Like, so that's Smokey MC and then capital C. So, but yeah, he's a prominent YouTuber that's up and coming. They've been covering a lot of Christian, you know, news and updates, and they've been keeping up with all the letters. And they're, you know, good old Southern boy, judging by the accent. And they just seem like they're pretty on top of things for the most part. But the person that actually conducted the call, I guess you could call it an interview because they were asking Christian questions, but they actually copyright strike, like, Smokey MCC. And Smokey MCC managed to get, after getting copyright struck, he managed to get the entire, like, phone call. And I have listened to the phone call in its entirety. Various tidbits of information have obviously been revealed and all that. But, you know, we're getting far ahead of ourselves. Me personally, I'm here today to cover various topics of interest, and I'll just go ahead and list them here. I want to talk about ILJ, Isabella Loretta Janke. You remember her, right? Shroomer Doomer? Like, you know, the fucking nasty fucking shroom girl, who actually let fucking fungus grow on her skin, like her fucking toenails and fingernails and shit. It got her sexually aroused for some reason. I don't understand it myself, but there you go. She's an absolutely disgusting person. It's almost as if she's really trying hard to make sure that her exterior matches her interior, which is honestly a rotten little apple of cynicism. But not only that, she's a sociopath. Anyway, I wanted to talk about her. I wanted to talk about letters 8 and 9. 8, I cannot really provide you all. I can provide you, you know, the meat and potatoes of what it actually, like, you know, the significance of the letter in its entirety. But I do not physically have a copy. I don't have a digital copy. I don't have a physical copy. I don't have it because somebody else covered it. And they didn't share the goods, which is fine. That's their right. But letter 9, I can definitely go over. There's also various tidbits of information that have come out about Christian through the chat logs, you know, their phone call on to the outside world. But anyway, before we all get into all that, let's just go ahead and focus on the primary topic of interest. You know, because this is so short, I don't think it warrants like an entire 30 minutes to dedicate to. So, Isabella Loretta Janke. You remember her, right?
Jinkies!
Shroomer Doomer? You know, the walking fungi. You know, the torturer of small animals, wanted to conduct the hamster holocaust in her own kitchen. Or more accurately, her friend's kitchen, because I don't know how much damage she exacted on the hamster population in the area. But yeah, she had a bad habit of kind of boiling hamsters alive, putting them in the microwave, doing various things to the hamster that is probably not very kosher. Also was a direct result of Max's death through neglect. Max, if you don't know, was a little black dog that she had rescued and brought back and was trying to keep as a pet. You know, she She seemed to genuinely care for the animal in the beginning in front of her friends. There's various videos that I made commentary on. Here's the problem. Max died an absolutely agonizing, horrible death over a long span of time. Because Isabella Loretta Janke, she basically tortured Max through neglect. It got so bad that they had to chop off his front paws because they had been infected and, you know, were probably filled with pus and rot. And yeah, the dog didn't exactly have a good existence upon this earth upon being found by Isabella Loretta Janke. And it gets even more sus because people were asking, whatever happened to the dog? Like, is the dog's well-being insured? And various people that were close association with ILJ, they would just give the innocuous response of like, oh, she was supposed to take it to the shelter. It's like, okay, which shelter did she take him to? We don't know. Obviously, it was a fucking bullshit lie, because that's one thing that you can absolutely, you know, expect from ILJ. That she's gonna lie about just about everything. Anyway. No, the most damning piece of evidence that was, like, held against her, like, the most damning crime that I would consider her to be culpable towards was driving a transgender student to suicide. Like, and people in the comments have tried to argue this with me. They're like, well, Tujo, she was only tangentially involved in that suicide. Let's be honest, it would have happened, like, regardless of what she did. I disagree, okay? Like, I firmly disagree. Like, just take a moment and imagine a hypothetical situation for a second. Imagine, if you will, I'm not the happy-go-lucky Tujo that you all know me to be. I am morbidly depressed. I am suicidal. I am not for this world. And I'm deciding to clock out early. I'm suicidal. I just can't take it anymore. The fucking stress, the fucking guilt, the fucking anxiety. I want out. And I decided to go over to the highest point I could possibly find, the cliffside. And it could be like 1,000 feet up, it could be 1,500 feet up, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm staring down into the great abyss, and I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about taking that deep dive, man. And you walk up to me, and in spite of seeing that you know that I'm suicidal, you know that I've been talking about it, and you know that I've been, you know, wanting to do it for a while, you don't discourage me. You tell me something else. You tell me that I should just do it. Just do it! You just keep telling me that. And then I take the deep dive. I hit the ground. I die. My body breaks into a million pieces. I am just nothing but gore, flesh, and fur. If I was a bystander and I witnessed all that happening, and I knew exactly what you told myself, and I knew exactly, like, the circumstances that led up to that point, I would hold you at least partially responsible for that, okay? Obviously, you didn't push me over. You didn't ask somebody else to push me over. But at the same token, you didn't really do a whole lot to discourage me from, committing suicide. You didn't try to talk me down, maybe say, oh, well, you know, therapy is always an option, and, you know, try to at least de-escalate the situation. You told me to kill myself. And, like, by that same token, I hold, like, Isabella Loretta Janke just as culpable for that transgender student killing themselves. You know, maybe she was just the oomph to, like, push them over the edge, metaphorically speaking. I mean, come on, she's had a history of targeting minorities, gays, and transgender people, okay? Like her studentia, the fellow students and her peers at Texas Tech University. Alright, like, it's not a far cry to, like, imagine that she would make a habit of this. Especially given the fact that that was her grand plan with Christian. That she wanted to collect as much blackmail material, extort as much money out of Christian as she possibly could, and basically be a leech until she could hold all of that against him and drive him to commit suicide. She could be Queen of the Trolls. I already talked about all this before, but for those of you uninitiated, yeah, there's a reason I really dislike her. Granted, you know, the suicide of the transgender student, not exactly something you can hold her against her in court. There's a lot of legal requirements to prove motive and, like, opportunity and what was actually shared between her and the victim. Granted, ILJ ain't the brightest, you know, she ain't the brightest fucking light bulb in the shack, to say the least. I mean, she brags about her exploits to anybody and everybody that she possibly can, as if it makes her superior to the rest of us. And really, the amount of disgust that you feel towards her, it's pretty significant. But, yeah, in spite of all of the crimes that I've outlined from the past several videos up until today, this fucked up individual has finally had a taste of comeuppance. Now, it's important to bear in mind that she has been investigated in the past by Texas Tech University, and every fucking time, in spite of the complaints by the students, you know, the ones that she's been harassing, bullying, and targeting, Texas Tech would do nothing. They just kind of shrug their shoulders and be like, alright, well, I guess that figures. Because, you know, ILJ is incredibly manipulative, and every time that she was faced with evidence, you know, like screen caps, various other things, she would just kind of shrug her shoulders and say, I don't know, must be a bunch of haters that photoshopped a bunch of communications and tried to say it was me. I'm completely innocent. It's my word against theirs, and I'm innocent. It's important to note that, like, you know, that was a year ago, thereabouts, and Isabella Loretta Janke always got off scot-free. But you'll all be happy to know there's a happy ending to all this. At least, bittersweet, I would say. I feel like the punishment that ILJ got was far lighter than what she deserved. But you know what? Whatever. I'll take it. Granted, if you're wondering why I dragged ass this far to actually talk about it, it's for the simple fact that it's all hearsay. This is on the word of Zoe, and if you know who Zoe is, they were, you know, Isabella Loretta Janke's ex-girlfriend. You know, I believe. Because, there's a lot of twists and turns in her life, and all of the knowledge of her being suspended has only been corroborated by other Texas Tech University students, who reportedly said that they hadn't seen ILJ nor hide nor hair this entire semester, which is certainly interesting. It certainly, you know, sheds light on the fact that maybe ILJ is either in hiding or they've actually legitimately been arrested. Here's the story. So the story goes that it was over a Zoom call that ILJ and her boy toy Lewis were supposed to appear and basically have a hearing. No, this isn't like a court hearing. This is basically a bunch of school administrators talking to ILJ about her behavior, her demeanor, her activities. I mean, you gotta bear in mind, this was like the girl that people were touting as a white supremacist cult leader of a cult that was basically masquerading as the school's chess club. And their activities, that was sort of like their main base of operations until Kiwi Farms got involved much later. You know, after the whole, you know, Bella leaks had hit basically everywhere across the World Wide Web. Everybody suddenly knew. And the funniest thing about the whole thing is that in spite of all of the efforts of ILJ to divert, like, the focus from her to her associates, to Fiona, to anybody she could possibly throw under the bus. Hell, she even tarnished the reputation of Gibby, who had foolishly basically accepted everything ILJ had told him, and basically doxed Fiona, who was a completely innocent party, in fact, the victim in all of this, and had to seek mental help through counseling after the fact. So Gibby isn't exactly as high on the list of Christorians as I had taken them for, but, you know, they don't seem to be doing too bad these days. They're pushing 60,000 subscribers. They never apologized for it, and they never really acknowledged the fact that, like, the true gravity of what they were guilty of. By the way, Lewis may have also faced suspension. I say may because there's very little confirmation of that. I know that Alan and various other individuals got off scot-free. They get to continue going to Texas Tech University, maybe faced probably a slap on the wrist, even more of a slap on the wrist than Isabella Loretta Janke got, but still, that's sort of like a dark shadow, like, hanging over you. Being associated with somebody that's that sociopathic and destructive. What I think happened is that the school administrators, the first time around, they were computer illiterate. I mean, you gotta understand. They probably don't understand Discord. They don't understand screen caps. They don't understand the efficacy of actually being able to Photoshop that many communications at, you know, relatively short span of time, and how monumental of a task that would actually be. On top of which, whether to save face or because they actually believed Isabella Loretta Janke to be guilty, or maybe they actually, you know, took the commentary and the opinions of the Studentia seriously for once in their fucking lives, and decided that Isabella Loretta Janke was a menace to society and that she had to go. Whichever way you slice it, Isabella Loretta Janke is suspended for 2 years. And it was something that several YouTubers like got up on the table and were just like, "Woo! Isabella Loretta Janke is suspended! Justice has been served!" I feel like she got off scot, like, you know, pretty light considering what she was trying to do and what she had already done. Not to mention all of the acts of animal cruelty that has led up to this point. But oh well. I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. At the very least, the people that are going to school with her, or at least were, they can at least continue to attend Texas Tech University without having to see her ugly ass anymore. But you gotta wonder, this is gonna fuck up Isabella Loretta Janke's future career. Like, she's going to be hindered for another 2 years. Considering that her father's money got her into college in the first place, I don't think she's going to suffer too much long term, but certainly it is going to be, you know, raising a couple eyebrows when she goes to apply for a job, and she's 2 years older than she should be for an entry-level position, and it's like, well, why did it take, like, what happened here in school? Why did you take 6 years instead of 4 to complete your program? It's going to be weird and awkward and unpleasant. Obviously, Texas Tech University is probably not interested in divulging the details to people like you or me, so the various attempts that Kiwi Farms and various Kiwi farmers out there, hell, even concerned citizens that just wanted to see to the well-being of animals as well as the Texas Tech Universities themselves, you know, basically Texas Tech would be tight-lipped about the whole thing. You know, it's obviously they're going to be, because, you know, divulging that sort of information that could open them up to liability, as in legal liability. But at the same time, you gotta wonder, do they give a damn about their students, or is it all about that money? Because, you know, that tuition money, that, you know, Mike Janke money, you gotta wonder if it's like, if that's what they were looking at more and focusing on that, as well as, how is this all going to look? How many people actually know about this girl? Can she just quietly, you know, proceed to graduation and we can just rub all this under the rug? You gotta wonder. Because they certainly dragged ass on, like, disciplining her. This should have been long overdue, to be honest with you. But, hey, that's what we got going. She's gonna be suspended. So, I guess hamsters everywhere can rest easy. And Max can go to doggy heaven. Rest in peace, Max. You're a good bean. Anyway, you didn't come here to listen to me prattle on about Isabella Loretta Janke. So, let's go ahead and move this along, shall we? Man, that azure blue skyline never gets old. So, going back to Christianity, like, I think it's going to be a glorious religion, okay? Like, the church that I would have set up, it'd be like a gospel church. We'd be getting up and singing and partying, like, every time there would be a sermon. And Christian would be delivering their various teachings to the rest of us. And we really, like, the sermons, the teachings to be something we could really sink our teeth in, you know? It'd be great. It'd be fantastic. It'd be cringy as hell. I think I would throw up in the pew, you know, at the first sign of Christian. But yeah, like, I think I can get Coyote Lovely to join, you know, like, for the monetary donation of $5 to the temple at 32 Branchland Court, you know, Christian's address, if you really need to. I think it's 1342. All I know is it's in Ruckersville, Virginia, and, like, yeah, don't go there, please. Like, Barb's back, she's living on her own, it seems like, which lends credence to the idea that the guy who played the Pickle Man, as far as like the trolls go, he swears up and down that Barbara just acts like she's got, you know, dementia. That she's not actually dementia ridden, and that she's perfectly fine, lucid, and culpable, and capable. And she just puts on the act to elicit sympathy, so that more sympathy means higher donations. It's not outside the realm of disbelief, but at the same time, she really, just going by appearance's sake alone, she really does look like she's not all there. But anyway, letter 8. So obviously, letter 8, I don't have access to. I don't have the Word file. I don't have a transcript. I don't have a digital file. I don't have a scan. And if you're wondering why, it's because of their own cognizance. There was a individual that has a YouTube channel out there. His name's Big White, and basically he does the Stories from the Penitentiary YouTube channel, where I guess it's basically a channel that's focused on prison life, as well as the sharing of correspondence that goes to and from prison with high-profile prisoners like Christian. That's my guess, because you have to understand, the video that caught my eye, it was a YouTube recommended video, and I saw it one day. It's about 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago, and it honestly caught me off guard. I wasn't exactly expecting that, and I clicked on it, and I watched the dude, and you can see this big, burly dude, Big White. Certainly looks like he's done time himself. He certainly looks and sounds like he's rough around the edges. Could probably throw a punch worth a damn, and looks like he's rougher hewn, you know, compared to, like, somebody like you or me. We're probably, like, pencil necks compared to him. And he had actually written Christian, like, reached out to them, and was just, you know, sharing their thoughts. And I don't have anything to compare it to because I don't know what Big White had actually written. But what I can tell you is that Christian responded to the letter in kind. And basically, you know, they shared some tidbits of information. And it's through that letter, letter 8, that Christian mentions that, you know, Big White included, it's been about 35 people have actually written to Christian while in prison. What's interesting to note is, and this is centering more on the phone calls, but a variety of different people have written to Christian. At least we have a firm number. Now, obviously, only a small fraction of the letters, the correspondence that's been shared with Christian and the people that have been writing Christian, has actually hit the light of day. But in Christian's own words, 35 people. And it's important to note that because Christian, anytime he receives correspondence with somebody and it has their address, it has their name, any other tidbits of information, he records that in something called a goddess logbook. It's basically a journal that Christian wants to publish when they get out. But maybe I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself. What's interesting about letter 8 is that Christian has been reading the Bible and the Quran, and that he considers the Quran to be synonymous with Family Guy. As in, Family Guy is the perfect representation for the Quran, whereas the Bible would be the perfect representation for The Simpsons. What a fucking metaphor. I do apologize if any of you are, you know, Muslims, like, you know, practicing Muslims. I do apologize. I'm not trying to blaspheme here. I apologize for any devout Christians out there that might be practicing the tenets of the Bible. I apologize to you too, but that's just what Christians' outlook on life, which should be indicative of their mindset and their mentality, but I digress. They have a very bad habit of misunderstanding even the most basic, you know, concepts and ideas. But yeah, they were talking about how they're not in actual prison. The way that Christian describes it, they're just being held in jail. Like, I think it's probably the jail that's, like, you know, just at the police department, I would imagine. And it's for their own personal safety, because they basically, the prison administrators, or I should say, the administrators tasked with taking care of Christian, I think they recognize that Christian is a vulnerable individual that probably wouldn't do a whole lot if they were faced with bodily harm. And they separated them from the rest of the prison population. Or at least, they're not going to have a cellmate. They haven't had a cellmate since they got arrested. that they've been completely isolated. And I find that good, and I also find that bad. Christian, strangely, is taking it very well. I mean, when they were writing back to Big White, they were strangely cordial and wished Big White a lot of, you know, good sympathies and charm and, you know, good fortune and blessings. Even sent him a Fanta label, like scrawled a charm on the Fanta label. You should know about Christian's relationship with Fanta. This is a great Fanta, but Christian has had a bad habit of using Fanta in the past to recycle their semen. It is as disgusting as I make it out to be, so I'm not going to go any further about explaining the significance of that, but it is strange that of all things that Christian would send to Big White, he sends him a fucking label from a grape soda bottle of Fanta. But okay. So other than that, Christian just mentions that they had been in the medical care facility and that all the staff had been treating him well. Obviously, he made mention of jerk-ops in the past, but yeah, like for the most part, Christian is living the best life they can on the inside, that they're being taken care of by the staff members. They were in medical care. They complained about how noisy booking was when they were actually initially being booked, I suppose, and that they're treating this like it's a penthouse, like their cell is a penthouse at a fancy hotel, you know? Like, that's how they're treating it. And that they spend most of their days in deep meditation. And that they are appreciative for the fact that they're not with anybody else, like a cellmate or other prisoners, because he feels as though that demonic influences would prompt action on their part, as in attacking Christian. And that, you know, whatever devilish influences would drive them to do that, at least Christian is protected and safe in a stable, you know, environment. Chris's own sort of like reflections on that. So they spend that time meditating, and they have a nice little prayer rug, a Persian prayer rug that's actually for Muslims. You know, when they pray to Mecca, they kneel down onto a small prayer rug, and you should be facing Mecca. I don't know the geographical coordinates in order to do that, but, you know, it's something that's very important for the Islamic faith. Anyway, I think it's the least bit sacrilegious that Christian bought the prayer rug because they thought it looked nice, but who am I to judge, right? I mean, it's Christian after all. At this point, you gotta just kind of shake your head at this whole situation. Oh my god. I just forgot about something. I was going to make a video on November 18th. And if you're wondering why that date is so significant, it's because that was the next court date for Christian. That was supposed to be their official hearing. It never happened, so I never made the video because, you know... what's strange is that it had been confirmed through Kiwi Farms, and I'm feeling a little bit leery about relying on Kiwi Farms for so much information. It is doubtlessly valuable as a hub of information because you have so many people that are interested in a given topic, and they have... their interest is in the accuracy and validity of whatever information gets shared between them. So anybody that tries to spread misinformation, they will actually like attack and castigate and sort of turn on. So, but at the same time, you gotta wonder, is it really, like, you know, is it really good to be taking information from the Kiwi Farms? But anyway, they had a vested interest in Christian, as Christian is the real OG of Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Farms wouldn't exist as it does now without Christian, alright? You can argue that there would have been some other lolcow out there. I'm sure there would have, but obviously the series of events that have led us to the present day would never have played out the same way if it wasn't for Christian. Anyway, the Kiwi Farmers actually reached out to the court and were basically making inquiries on whether or not they could attend the court hearing and see Christian for themselves, and they were actually turned away because Christian's court date had been rescheduled to next year. My theory, I believe that the next court date is supposed to be February 4th, 2022. Don't quote me on that one, and feel free to comment in the comment section if I got it wrong. But that's supposedly going to be the next court date. That's significant because it means for that the rest of this year, Thanksgiving is already passed, Christmas is on the way, and that court date is next year, so Christian's going to be in prison for the foreseeable future. Anyway, as far as, you know, letter 8 is concerned, just some closing thoughts here. Christian, like, apart from, like, just sort of making their usual, I'm the Astral Blue God, like, I'm the Astral Blue Heart Goddess, and basically wishing for blessings to befall Big White. Yeah, not a whole lot that we haven't heard before, but it is interesting to hear the metaphor between The Simpsons and Family Guy, the Bible and the Quran, and, like, basically various tidbits about their living situation, what they've been doing to occupy their time. When they were in booking, it was actually so noisy that they actually spent 88 cents to buy a pair of earplugs just to drown out the noise. And apart from that, the food is alright, that the care that they've been receiving is alright. I'm curious if Christian suffers from diabetes. Like, it's entirely possible, considering this is the same guy that drank 2-liter bottles of soda and thought that was completely normal. If you do that, by the way, please don't. Like, you don't want diabetes, okay? Like, you don't want type 1, type 2. You don't want to have to take insulin shots and prick your finger every time that you need to test, like, you know, whether or not your blood sugar is low. I don't have it, thankfully, but I've always been kind of leery about getting it myself, you know? I'm always just... So that's why I try to keep myself within a reasonable weight limit and try to moderate my sugar intake, but that's just me. Anyway, it could be indicative that Christian has some health problems, or the visit to the medical ward is basically all mental, that they're trying to assess Christian's mental state, their condition, and it could substantiate and affect in the future whether or not Christian is going to be considered insane when they try him for his crimes. But anyway, I'll leave the speculation for what I think will happen in the future for later in this video. Let's go ahead and skip on to letter 9, shall we? Hey, so we're going to take a brief break from the commentary so that I can go ahead and read this letter. One thing that I want to state offhand is that the letter is dated November 8th, 2021, so obviously it's the latest and greatest in a long string of letters that I've read on this channel. Also, written on notebook paper inexplicably. As far as the contents of the letter are concerned, I didn't read it from start to finish. I wanted to save that just for you all, because if I have to expose myself to cringe, you're coming along for the ride. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and get into this. I will try my best to read in Christian's voice, but as you all are painfully aware by now, for some reason it sort of devolves into the Burger King foot fungus fetish guy, like his voice. I don't know why. It's some sort of like a weird slip up on my part. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into this. Hey, so-and-so. This letter will be short and direct to answer your questions, and I encourage and grant you consent to share my responses online. Most of the officers in higher ranks and nurses have been good with me. The minority members are aloof, indifferent, or incompetent with me. The Science books are continuing, and you and everyone of this 1218 Earth, 1C-211987 Earth, and all universes within this timeline are living them now, including the 100 plus books I have written, drawn in 1C-211987. Also, as of August 1st, 2021, everything involving the main special Sonic Shoes, Rose Juice, and I and the nation of Quickville, entire state of Virginia as well, that has not been written or drawn by I and or my body's hands, backup soul or brain, are absolutely non-canonical with our timeline set of universes, here with Quickville, in that obviously. Everything written or drawn or thought by anyone in fan fiction are all distant, alternative timelines and distant alternate universes, completely divided and separate from this timeline. Period. You lot have no conscious clue how much damage control and prevention the superheroes, gods and goddesses, Magi-chan, Angelica, Sonichu, Rosie Rosechu, and I do to keep everything in Universe 1C-211987, Equestria included, safe and sound, well for the good of the majority good and neutral humans that are being collectively shifted there as we speak. And when my second coming happens, and we gods pass judgment day upon the toxic minority left behind, I, Magi-chan, and every psychic type in the know and involved foreknew all about Bella and the setup and her want to tempt me into suicide. The leak was a divine test upon her that she was expected to fail at, and we had great optimism and all avoiding the drama and rumor. Unfortunately for you all, enough had failed that test as well, and I'm separated from thou pointless toxicities and dramas to better self-heal myself. Unfortunate because you can't push my body around, or I as well. Malachi 3:13. Your words have been stout against me, saith I, the Lord, and the soldiers of heaven's armies are doing their work for I, and the majority upon the minority toxics among you all. Soul bonding is as far as it went. No further comment. Half a basketball court and a basketball, meditation, book reading, writing, drawing, and solitaire on the prayer rug, and present tense, listening to the radio. Considering the restrictions, money through the CVRT website, or cashier's checks or U.S. postal money orders through the mail is the only approved items allowed. They have a library here. It is sufficient. There are both men and women in this jail. Do not be bigoted with such a dumb question. I shall return to the Sonichu temple, and all shall be forgiven. I have read Revelations. Yes, I am God. Last thing, Mary Lee Walsh, under the agreement and genuine friendship between her and I, continues to work as mayor of Quickville, City of Under. Christine Chan Sonichu Goddess Sabrina Kura Chandler, CPU Battery Charge Blue Heart, and of no familial or blood relations with I or Christine Chandler and I. Who has time for elections when us goddesses defend Quickville, the city of, from Ray freaking riots, Eggman, Bowser, Giovanni, and so on occasion, and we had the dimensional merge completed and the collective shift in progress. Then we have my second coming on 1218 Earth. Not to mention the damage control and prevention that are beyond non-powerful individuals' control anyway. Meditate on all that and try to repent. Genuinely, toxics, because your time is soon up. Go forth in peace and clarity with all that, by my power, glory, and authority as God. Be safe and well. Miss Jesus Christine Weston Chandler Sonichu, the Goddess Blue Heart and Lord, Messiah, Savior, and God of all. Jesus fucking H. Christ. So, that was letter 9, for those of you that were wondering. Maybe you didn't ask for this. Maybe you wanted something a little bit more entertaining. I have to say, it's the least bit surprising to me that Christian would, like, basically bequeath unto Mary Lee Walsh the mayorship of Quickville, a title that she would not, 1, understand, 2, want, even if she did understand it. And, you know, bear in mind, Mary Lee Walsh, ever since that she had ripped up Christian's attraction sign, like, you know, for soliciting at the college, Christian gave her a curse ha me ha, and it was at that moment that Mary Lee Walsh kind of realized that Christian wasn't exactly an ordinary individual. He wasn't a normal, typical student that she'd give a stern talking to. So it wasn't until he started doing more threatening things, like he sent her a recorded DVD copy of him, like, beating her up in Soul Calibur. Like, he made a facsimile character, and he made a character for himself, and he's, like, beating her up with, like, a staff. It wasn't until that happened that he got, like, a restraining order and was suspended from, like, you know, the school, couldn't come on campus no more. Thankfully, after a while, his mother convinced him to stop carrying around the attraction sign, so some good came of it. You know, the year it took him to get back to PBCU, I think that's the name of the community college. She was the assistant dean, if I remember correctly. But, anyway. No, this is about what you'd expect, right? Like, Christian plays off the meditation as him in his astral body protecting people, poor schlebs like you and I, from whatever problems are affecting the cosmos. It's a very elaborate form of escapism, but obviously, other than the mild cringe factor and the cheap entertainment that's it brought to, like, the rest of the internet, yeah, there's not a whole lot going on. I feel like it's the least sacrilegious that he's using that prayer rug just as a pad to, like, sit on. But yeah, the extrapolations I can get from this letter before we continue is that Christian is building an army. They have Magi-Chan, they have Mewtwo, they have various other individuals, the My Little Pony, Pegasus sisters, and everybody. Everybody is going to be ready for the dimensional merge. When they get out of prison, it's going to be hell on earth. There's going to be astral beings raining down upon all the trolls, and the trolls will be left here to burn and die. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, it just reads like a lot of answers to a lot of questions that we can sort of glean from what it's stated here as, like, as far as the answer goes. But obviously the quality of the paper, if you're wondering why the quality of the paper fluctuates, Christian is sort of at the mercy of the costs at the commissary that they go to. And they want, you know, just basic white paper, you know, like computer paper, because that's what they use to draw on. So that's why some of the older letters sort of had that kind of paper as the body upon which he would write the letter. But as far as you can tell, like, later on, he'd be writing on pads of paper like this. But what's crazy is that he knew about Bella, you know, goading, like, tempting him to suicide, and he's playing it off like it was a test. In fact, everybody that has wronged Christian in the more recent times, like Null, you know, from Kiwi Farms, or Bella, he's played it off as, oh, it was a divine test and they failed. And I guess that's to make himself feel better that he got done over by somebody else, because Christian has been, you know, fucked with a lot over the years, alright? It's not outside the suspension disbelief that they're going to form a sort of coping mechanism to deal with that. But the fact that he's playing it off like, oh, well, it was just a divine test and they failed. Oh, by the way, and the fact that the drama had blown up as fast as it did to result in Christian getting arrested and having a public spectacle be there upon his arrest, we also failed the test. So, take solace in the fact that the divine test that Christian had presented to you and I, we failed. I failed because I make these stupid videos about him. You failed because you're watching them and you're involving yourself in the drama. So, I think that's cause for celebration, don't you think? Jokes aside, at least they're in a stable environment, you know? But there's still one other topic of interest that we need to talk about before I end this video. And that would be the phone calls from prison. So, obviously, I want to add to the commentary upon this letter and letter 8, but we're going to sort of wrap all of that together with the phone calls because it all sort of ties in together. So, back in a sec. So, I have heard the call in its entirety. It's a very rough listen because whoever was calling at the time, or I should say more accurately, had received a call from Christian. Basically, they were in their car. I have a couple theories about that. What I think happened, as I was suggesting before, is that Christian had called them out of the blue. They probably included their cell phone in the letter that they had shared correspondence with Christian through, and Christian decided to drop him a line. And they probably caught him off guard, but because it's Christian, and this is the first time that anyone, to my knowledge, has actually been able to talk to Christian over the phone since they were incarcerated, obviously, it's a pretty unique situation, so they decided to just run with it. They answered the phone call, they decided to talk to them. What's strange is that it's very clear from the audio clip that I have access to that this has been doctored in some way, as in the caller's voice, or I should say the person that received the phone call, they cut out a lot of the portions by which you can hear their actual voice. But Christian seemed to already denote their age and that they were a fairly young person and, inexplicably guessed that they worked at Subway. That might be true, but not confirmed. But anyway, before I get too far ahead of myself, I just wanted to play the clip, and the portion that I have is only about 3 minutes long, maybe 4 minutes long, so I'm just going to be sort of sitting here, reflecting, stewing, brewing, and maybe formulating the thoughts as they come to mind, because obviously there's quite a bit to unpack here, so let's just go ahead and play that clip, shall we?
I feel like I'm in a much better place now. It could have been worse. I could have been abused a lot worse. The worst time I was abused, just essentially if you don't count the theoretical exes, all those fakers and haters online, it would have to be the pin me down event in 4th grade. A couple of them were just around 2 of them were rather cruel or just being jerkish. And then there were 3 that just did not list their names or anything on the envelope. Just just whatever images. And one of them was pretended to be Robert Shue, my dad. Tried to talk to me. I thought it coming from a mile away. My foresight did. It's just all I had to do was just just read the part of the first sentence, and I just shredded that letter and flushed it to the toilet. Especially Kenneth, and I gave him permission to post the letters on Onion Farms, which of course then got relayed to Kiwi Farms. Then obviously, yes, I want everybody to know what I realized, that I am literally God, that I am the full reincarnation of Jesus Christ and everything, all that. Everybody needs to know this truth. And essentially, the Da Vinci Merge I started talking about 3 years ago, that was just one of the 3 events for the entire Judgment Day. The other 2 being the collective shift and, of course, my second coming. Well, among my writing, I've lately written my thoughts and details each and every day in my own little journal, which I call my goddess log. I meditate a lot in here, so I know just pretty much every day. I meditate innately, involuntarily, 24/7, 365. So for me to consciously meditate, which is for me to go deeper into myself and dive deeper into the cosmos, the universe, the Akashic records, and literally the entire multiverse, and then some. Yeah, but I've wrote a bunch of those meditative details out as well in my goddess log. Sometime after I get out of here, I'm likely to just lend my entire bunch to my business association, my business associate, Caden Peck, have him do a bunch of scan work and help me to publish it. That's always good. I like Subway. Yeah. I foreknew and foresaw that I was going to end up in jail anyway. It was just popular amongst the other timelines. Yeah, the thing I did that day was essentially I soul bonded and cuddled and supportively in mentality and emotional and spirituality talked a lot with Barbara. So essentially I was just boosting her up and healing and cleansing her aura and chakras, and of course healing and forgiving and all that of her past sins and her regrets. So that is what I did mainly. That was the main attraction. So yes, the money would be appreciated to help me out. That me not only in phone time, but also keep me well in stock with pens and better food. I received a generous donation recently, and I've been enjoying some soup. I figured out how to make noodle soup in a bottle. Yeah, I'll send you a lyric drawing later. You take care and have a great, blessed day. Go forth in peace and clarity by my power and glory. Yeah, all right. Take care. Bye now.
I don't think there's really a whole lot more to say, is there? At least if you were like judging this entire experience by that 3-minute clip, it'd be the least bit difficult to sort of really extrapolate any information from that. But here's what I know. So you remember how earlier in this video I mentioned that Christian had received correspondence from at least 35 people? In the call in its entirety, Christian actually confirms it's more like 32 at the time of the video, or I should say the call. And the call had come place like about 8 days before like letter 8 came out. Either letter 8 or letter 9, one of the two. But yeah, some time had passed between the call to letter 8 or 9, I believe. And so that would substantiate at least 3 additional pen pals decide to drop Christian a line. And my theory about this particular like phone call is that the caller who had received the call from Christian, they probably got off work, caught off guard that Christian would call them while they're on the road. They decided to just run with it. That would explain and substantiate why the call quality is so terrible, because you're getting a lot of background noise, and whoever received the call didn't really bother to like consistently try to like sound remove that or do anything to enhance the voices. So it's a little bit of a difficult listen, but also like they made a lot of weird choices as far as editing like this particular call. Like they chopped up the audio call so that it would string along completely out of order. For what reason or purpose it escapes me, it was uploaded to YouTube until it was taken down for some reason by the author of the channel. And then Kiwi Farms had saved an archive, and that's how I got a hold of it. I already told you about Smokey MCC. It's actually supposed to be Smokey and McCracked, but I guess Cracked Rack got angry that somebody was, trying to steal their thunder. So maybe they were like, trying to tussle with Smokey McCracked. There can only be 2 McCrackts around here, and it's going to be Cracked Rack. But anyway, Smokey McCracked, they had basically, made a video about the first letter. And so did Gibby, I believe, and so did Dylan Thomas. So Smokey McCracked, he got copyright struck, but Smokey decided not to take it lying down. He fought back, and YouTube thankfully was on his side and basically told this other creator to fuck off. And to be fair, Christian, does anyone legally hold that sort of thing? If this was a bona fide interview, for a documentary, I guess the argument could be made that there could be a corporation out there that could legally own the contents of the phone call that they have with Christian. But for somebody like you or I, that we didn't take any steps to make this legal or official, we don't have that kind of ability to sort of take people to court over. It's really not worth it, especially when you're a small-time creator. So I don't know what that kid was thinking, because they seem to be a relatively young man that doesn't really know what they're doing, but they're probably one of the many tweens that is still a Christian fan for whatever reason, and decided to try to take Smokey McCrack down, and Smokey McCrack told him to fuck off, and basically got more of the video, the entirety of the video, and put that up instead. Yeah, it's a very weird series of choices made by this small creator. But at the same time, I guess they wanted their 15 minutes of fame. Or infamy, depending on how you look at it. I don't really feel like if you go above and beyond to get material off of Christian voluntarily offers that material of his own free will, so it's not really an accomplishment, Unless you're Isabella Loretta Janke, who's trying to do the dastardly, most grand plan of all time. She got the fame she was looking for. Oh, did I say fame? I meant infamy. But anyway. No, probably they got off of work and they received the phone call from Christian and they just left the quality like it was and decided to chop out all the bits where they had their voice on the call. But yeah, let's talk more about Christian and what's going on in prison. So Christian, he's still holding near and dear to his heart the fact that years ago, when he was just a little kid in elementary school, that he was pinned down by various school administrators and teachers because he had, an episode. And you have to understand something about Christian. That experience is probably traumatic enough that would stick with you for a while. But Christian is an unreliable narrator. They can't even narrate their own life, accurately. And it's really up to people like the internet community at large to really parse the details and reason out, okay, this is probably what's happening, and this is probably what happened. What was happening at the time, more than likely, this is pure speculation, because unless those teachers remember the incident and decide to come out and talk about it, which they're probably not going to do. I mean, to be fair, anybody that has interacted with Christian for the entirety of their lives, they're probably going to want to forget about him as soon as possible. Let's be real now. But if they came out and substantiated this, what I believe is happening is that autism was poorly understood at the time, and they probably just pinned him down to observe, the symptoms. They probably thought he was having a seizure or something like that. And Christian went so far as he didn't mention it in the video, but to substantiate his hatred of the homosexuals, which ever since they became trans, they kind of tried to brush that under the rug, but their hatred of the homosexuals supposedly derives from the fact that they were sat on the principal's lap, who made, taunts at them. And what was probably happening, that's still a weird gesture for a principal to do, but you gotta understand, this is Virginia, and it was probably, a gesture to try to facilitate trust. Just be like, put her there, son, come on. Don't be acting out in class. I don't know, but it more accurately, a lot of people have suggested that it was actually Barbara and Bob that tried to tell Christian, hey, when we take the school system to court, this is what you should tell them. They probably misunderstood whatever Christian told them and decided to run with it to make their case against the school system look a little bit more winnable, but they didn't win. Anyway, it's weird that Christian is 39 fucking years old. Or, pretty close to that age. I'm misunderstanding, maybe, because I feel like they're almost the same age as Darkside Phil, who's 39. They gotta be in that same ballpark, because Christian was born quite a few years earlier than I was. So, they're pretty old. 38, 39, pretty close to there. But their voice doesn't sound any different from the old videos that they used to post on YouTube on the daily. All the videos where he was just cursing at the camera and, threatening Clyde Cash with a penknife, and, all of the wicked, breakdown moments that they would have, and making a public spectacle of himself on his horrible PlayStation 3i camera, so everything looks like it's suspended in green jello. Yeah, I remember those days. I also remember how his voice sounds, and his voice sounds almost exactly the same. Maybe a little bit more haggard, but they were strangely chipper over the phone, you gotta admit. And on top of that, the fact that they were so candid with this individual with all this information, they're still perpetuating the idea that they're an astral blue goddess heart, goddess that's going to come down on a silvery chariot and deliver us all to the promised land. But on top of that, there's also the fact that, they were quite proud of the fact that they had apparently made cup noodles in a 2-liter bottle, which, that's kind of a challenge if you don't have the right materials. What I think they did is they crushed the fucking noodles and they put it down in the funnel into the bottle. I don't know how they heated it up, but maybe they used the hot water in the sink that they have access to. But yeah, certainly interesting. And the fact that they would insist that they knew about Bella's treachery, and that they knew from a mile away, and it was all a test, only confirms what we already know from previous letter. Letter 9 came out after the phone call, by the way, so it's, take it what you will. This is technically before. I believe this is dated 11/1/2021, so almost a month ago. But there's obviously been some back and forth about it, and some people have sort of tried to cover up the evidence, the progenitor of the material, as it were, the phone call in its entirety. And again, it's just so many questions as to why. Why do you want sole ownership of this one phone call between you and Christian? Like, even the stories from Penitentiary Guy Big White, like, he was freely candid about sharing everything, all the contents of the letter, his communications, what he received from Christian. So, the dude's a dude, bro, as far as I'm concerned, but, like, this young guy, his demeanor and behavior has just kind of marked him as a shithead, in my opinion. But anyway, the dimensional merge, they insist, is like already happening. There's going to be a mass transference of normal, neutral good, neutral humans from this plane of existence to C-197 to 11, and his name for the alternative Earth or existence where all the dimensional merged worlds are going to collide and have like a small hodgepodge of various universes all overlapping one another to facilitate the appearance of all the fictional characters like Super Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, Link from Legend of Zelda. All those other people are going to be there, and that like the real dimensional merge is going to happen. The insistence that they have an army at their disposal is certainly interesting. I'm getting like weird, cringeworthy delusions of like the Avengers, like the Avenger movies, when they would like all congregate to fight Lothar and like various other people, or like the AI from Age of Ultron, or even fucking like Thanos. I don't know. This sort of monkey cage of insanity has hit its peak, I feel like. This is about the time where I would hope that Filthy Frank would step in and just be like, it's time to stop! Stop!
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the fuck are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
And it's just crazy to me that Christian would actually think they're, like, in spite of the fact that they're in prison, that they are being held there for their own protection. They keep mentioning that their physical body is detached from their astral body, and it's through the astral body that they can actually go out into the cosmos to do the good. That is, like, when they refer to themselves as working, they don't mean like working a job, they mean like working on protecting the rest of us poor schlubs from whatever omnipotent beings might be out there, whatever causes for concern might be affecting the rest of humanity, and that we all should be very thankful for his efforts, which, you know, for the delusions of a madman, just kind of makes you shake your head. What's really chilling is the fact that they don't understand the big picture here. That they've been arrested and sent to prison for fucking their mother. And that in the chat, like, audio log, you can hear that they're just, like, saying, oh, yeah, you know, we cuddled, I did it for their mental well-being, and to give them blessing and, you know, good heart and trust and sympathy in their trying times. It's like, no, dude, you fucked her, okay? By your own admission. And the fact that you got arrested means that there was some sufficient proof out there that the prosecutor is going to present in court against you when you get your next court hearing, if you get your next court hearing, like in a couple months. And yeah, but how is this all going to play out? Well, that's difficult to say, wouldn't you say? Like, I think that what's going to end up happening is that this is never going to actually go to court. I feel like the time that Christian got arrested to the actual supposed court date is going to be a, like, you know, basically in Christian's favor, that they've been holding Christian for this amount of time, and that they're not going to be able to sort of like hold anything against Christian, and they're going to be able to walk free. That's one prediction. The other prediction is they're absolutely going to be held accountable in court, but found innocent by reason of mental insanity and sent to a home. You know, like a halfway house, maybe a mental health care facility. But here's the other problem. Barbara isn't exactly a spring chicken, okay? She's getting pretty old up there in age. And, like, if she dies before Christian gets out of jail, then Christian is effectively going to be homeless. He's going to have to be a ward of the state, and that would be the state of Virginia. They're going to have to basically adapt to a mental health care facility, halfway house, whatever, Or if they take to the roads, some poor schlub out there is going to take Christian in out of the kindness of their own heart, and then quickly regret it when they find out about Christian's less than stellar lifestyle choices, their behavior, their attitude. You know, taking in a friend, like off the street, into your home, that's a challenge. But if it's a damn good friend, you'll put up with their bullshit just as much as they'll put up with yours. For somebody like Christian, where do I even begin with what the living situation would be like with living with Christian? It's a bad thought. You don't want to, like, walk down that road. But all in all, that's pretty much the summary of everything that has sort of led up to this point. In the past month, it's all been, you know, a wild and crazy train of insanity. And that's really just Christian's life. And, you know, people have made, like, materials comparing Christian's life to things. The fact that Christian's reading the Bible and Quran is eyebrow-raising, because up to this point, until they really got invested in sort of the dimensional merge, thanks to the idea guys, yeah, I don't really understand what, like, they didn't have any interest in religion beyond maybe the attempts of Rocky Shoemaker to try to help out the Chandler family when they were in a bind. Until Rocky Shoemaker could honestly take no more, because, you know, even the most devout Christian is going to have limits as far as their mental capacity in order to tolerate somebody. You gotta admit, you know. And in Christian's case, I can only imagine, because, like, they're reading the Bible and they're comparing, like, events in the Bible to their life. Like, when, you know, people were exiled from Egypt, Christians just like, oh yeah, that's just like the time that I got banned from the game store and I couldn't go back to the game place no more. I was exiled. And, like, conflating events from the Bible to his everyday life as if that's supposed to substantiate the idea that he is Jesus Christ reincarnated and God. So I don't know. It's like, where do we even go from here? So the fact that 35 people have reached out to Christian, a lot of correspondence has been going back and forth. And some of the people that have been writing Christian aren't all, how would you say, good, well-mannered, and well-meaning individuals. As in, it's important to note that some of the people that reached out to Christian did not speak to them in good faith. For instance, a couple people were masquerading as, like, Robert Chu, as in they were trying to pretend to be Christian's father in, like, Sonic Chu form. That's basically what happened when Bob died. Christian made a character called, you know, Robert Chu. And in Christian's mind, his father Bob continues to live on in, like, Quickville as Robert Chu. Which I have to say, that would be like a hell on earth if that was actually taking place. So let's really, for Bob's sake, hope not, because Bob deserves a hell of a lot better than that. Not the best parent in the world, but certainly a lot better than Barb, to say the least. Anyway, so that's probably in poor faith. Christian, in response to that, in the call was just like, oh yeah, I threw those letters down the toilet, flushed them out. Surprised he didn't cause a leak or something like that, or like some sort of a plumbing issue in his own, like, cell. But maybe he was careful about it. Who the fuck am I kidding? Christian's never careful about anything. Hell, he was almost, like, playing into Bella's, like, fucking trap, and even turned on Null at the last minute, which is part of the reason why Null completely gave up on Christian and was just like, you know what, I'm fucking done with you. And, you know, turned him into the police. Because Christian had broken the no contact order. It's interesting to see how events play out, and, like, all of the different people that are involved in some sort of micro drama, and how it plays into a larger drama, which is Christian's life. I mean, it's been this way for years. One thing I will say is that I started to try to chronicle Christian's life, an oral retelling, as it were. But what happened was, obviously I transferred my channel over to VR chat instead of using FaceRig as my means by which I can display an avatar. Might do a face reveal in the future, might not, who knows, stay tuned. But for right now, VR chat's the place where I want to be, and honestly, I like all the avatars I happen to use here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to really study up on my Christery. Everything that's happened from the point of origin to today is going to be covered. And it's going to be a remastered retelling of Christian's life story. It's probably going to take me a while because there's a lot of different fucking trolls involved. I'm not going to get every little minute detail down, but I will be able to like cite specific events that affected Christian's life in relative order. Because you want to hear like the interesting things. You don't want to hear like the fucking fluff. You want to hear like shit happening. Like when Christian ran over Michael Schneider. Or when like Christian was on a date and a guy in a fucking pickle suit came over and basically stole the date away from Christian. Or more accurately, rescued the date from Christian because Christian was being fucking creepy at that point. You want to hear about shit like that, right? It's something I simultaneously feel as like guilty about covering because Christian is clearly not in the right state of mind. But it's also kind of a guilty pleasure because I can't really feel that bad for Christian knowing everything I know about them. They're not a good person, okay? I don't think they should be killed, executed, or tortured, but I do think that they belong in a home. And it's going to take years of counseling to even break and scratch the surface of what's wrong with them, alright? I've mentioned it before. I mentioned again, they belong in a home, okay? Let them get their day in court. I'm very interested to see how things play out in court. As we already discussed, Christian's last court date was supposed to be on the 18th. Kiwi Farms confirmed because they actually reached out to the court, and surprisingly, the lady on the phone was very cordial with the people that were talking. It's like, I'm sorry, dear, to turn you away, but that particular individual's court date has been pushed back to next year. It's not going to happen this year. So that's where Christian's story ends as of right now. The fact that there is 35 people in active exchange of letters with Christian, tentatively, because remember, all this information that I'm regaling to you all, effectively as of today, is completely out of date. So in the future, that could change, you know? We don't know how many letters have come in and gone out from the jail where Christian is housed. One other thing I wanted to mention about the paper situation. Christian basically confirmed that they source their paper usually from the commissary, but sometimes like Christian will receive paper from the guards when it comes in with like various correspondence they receive. And sometimes they have to cannibalize the paper by like ripping it in half and trying to economize because writing letters obviously takes paper and pen, and Christian complains about the quality of the pen that they had and the quality of the paper that they were using to write notes on. One other thing is that Christian confirmed what I've been suspecting for a while, that the administrators at the jail will actually read all of the letters that go in and out from the jail. In Christian's own words, they scan an original copy. Well, like, I think they scan the original copy to keep on file. So that's basically like when letters are received from an outside party to Christian, that it's kept for record purposes. Anything that might be suspect is obviously not going to be able to get to Christian. So just like FYI. But for the most part, the letters that get out from prison don't seem to be affected in any way. As in, the guards haven't taken them, confiscated them, shredded them, as far as my knowledge goes, because they quite honestly do appear like they would be letters coming from prison. One other thing I wanted to mention before we go. You might have noticed that weird religious symbol that Christian keeps writing on the end of like every letter. He also encloses that on the envelope. I haven't been including the envelopes, because I didn't see it as necessary. It's technically part of the letter, but there's nothing of note to really be on there. And if it's got somebody's address, I don't want to be like culpable in showing that. I know I can like censor it, but still, it's not like a piece of like correspondence here. But anyway, what's important to note about that is that letters, they all have that religious symbol. And what I'm trying to say is that that symbol is basically the symbol of Christianity. So, think about it. Maybe you all need religion in your life. But if you do, I think you do a hell of a lot better than Christian. So, it'll be a novelty, alright? Christianity, hosted at a gospel church, where we sing, dance, pray, dance some more, listen to sermons, preferably not from Christian, but if it's gotta be, I'll hold a barf bag under my seat. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video. I know it was a long one. I do appreciate you all for sticking out with this far out. But till next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you have a better one.
How do I feel about being a member of the Information Society? That's a difficult question because I didn't know we were in the Information Society.
Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Would you care to hit that like button and subscribe for more? I'd greatly appreciate it.